The year was 2157. The Earth Alliance ship Endeavour drifted toward the massive space station that served as the headquarters of the Galactic Council. Captain Frank Miller stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back, watching as the alien structure grew larger on the main screen. The station orbited a neutron star using its powerful gravity for energy. It looked like a giant silver wheel with 17 spokes, one for each member species of the Council. "Nervous?" asked Lisa Wright, standing beside him. As the mission's cultural specialist, she had trained for years for this moment. Frank shook his head, but the tightness in his jaw gave him away. "Just ready to get this over with. 17 different alien species waiting to judge if we're worthy to join their club." "We've prepared for this," Lisa reminded him. "First contact protocols have been running smoothly with the Council representatives for 6 months now." The communications officer called out from her station. "Captain, we're receiving docking instructions." "Follow them exactly," Frank ordered. "No surprises today." The Endeavour slid into its assigned berth with precision. Through the viewports, the crew could see various alien ships docked nearby. Some looked like smooth teardrops, others like angular crystals. One resembled a massive jellyfish made of metal and glass. "Remember," Frank told his team as they gathered at the airlock, "we represent all of humanity today." The diplomatic team consisted of 12 people, carefully selected from different nations, backgrounds, and specialties. They wore the blue and gold uniforms of the Earth Alliance, each with their country's flag on one shoulder and Earth's flag on the other. The airlock cycled open. Waiting for them was the welcoming committee, 6 aliens of different species. Leading them was Vextal, the Council's chief diplomat. Vextal stood nearly 7 feet tall with smooth blue skin that glistened with moisture. Large dark eyes blinked sideways, and gill-like structures fluttered at the neck. "Captain Miller, Specialist Wright," Vextal said, the translation device at its throat converting alien sounds to English. "The Galactic Council welcomes humans to Harmony Station." Frank stepped forward and bowed slightly. As their research had suggested, this was a universally respectful gesture. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we thank you for this welcome." The formal greetings continued as each member of the alien delegation introduced themselves. There was Zircon, a being that seemed made of purple crystal that chimed softly when it moved. Nalavi looked like a 4-armed fox walking upright. The others were even stranger. One appeared to be a floating cloud of green gas contained in a clear suit. Another resembled a giant grasshopper with feathers instead of wings. "Please follow us to your quarters," Vextal said. "You will have time to rest before the formal reception. Tomorrow we begin the integration protocols." As they walked through the station's wide corridors, humans tried not to stare at the dozens of alien species going about their business. Some aliens, however, made no attempt to hide their curiosity about the newcomers. "They're studying us," Lisa whispered to Frank. "That's fine," he replied. "We're studying them too." Their quarters were spacious and had been adjusted to Earth normal gravity, temperature, and atmosphere. The furniture was clearly designed based on information humans had shared earlier. "Most considerate," Lisa noted. "The Council prides itself on hospitality," Vextal said. "You are the first new spacefaring species we have encountered in 73 of your Earth years." After the aliens left them to settle in, Frank called his team together. "First impressions?" he asked. "They seem genuinely welcoming," said Dr. Ben Harris, their xenobiologist. "The technology level is impressive but not impossibly advanced," added Olivia Martinez, their science officer. "Maybe 200 years ahead of us, not more." Lisa had been quiet, making notes on her tablet. "Something feels off," she finally said. Frank turned to her. "Explain." "I can't put my finger on it yet, it's just a feeling. They're being polite, but there's something underneath. A kind of cautiousness." "We're strangers," Frank reasoned. "Of course they're cautious." "It's more than that," Lisa insisted. "When Zircon looked at us, I sensed fear. The formal reception that evening was held in a vast hall with a transparent ceiling that offered a view of the neutron star and surrounding space. Representatives from all 17 council species attended, each one more alien than the last. Some floated in special tanks, others moved on dozens of tentacles. One species communicated entirely, through changing skin colors. Frank gave the prepared speech offering friendship and knowledge exchange. The council representatives applauded in their various ways. Drinks and food suitable for human consumption were served. Lisa moved through the crowd, talking with as many aliens as possible. Most were friendly, asking about Earth and human culture. But as the evening progressed, she noticed a pattern in their questions. Many asked about human history, specifically about conflicts and wars. She found Frank speaking with Vextal near a viewport. "Captain," she interrupted, "I need to discuss something with you." Vextal bowed. "I will leave you to your conversation." When they were alone, Lisa kept her voice low. "They're all asking about our wars, the world wars, the Cold War, nuclear, weapons." Frank shrugged. "That makes sense. They want to know if we're aggressive." "It's not that simple," Lisa said. "Their reactions are strange. When I mentioned the death toll of World War II, one of them actually backed away from me." The next morning, the real work began. The council requested access to Earth's historical archives as part of the standard integration process. "This is routine," Vextal explained as they sat in a conference room. "We must understand your development path to determine how best to integrate your species." Frank looked to Lisa, who nodded slightly. "We have no objections," he said. "Our history is open for your review." Over the next 3 days, teams of alien researchers went through Earth's history. Humans answered questions and provided context. Lisa observed the aliens closely, noting how they reacted to certain information. Their body language was alien, but she had studied enough to recognize signs of distress. On the third day, something changed. The alien researchers stopped coming to their meetings. Messages went unanswered. The human team was politely but firmly asked to remain in their quarters. "What's happening?" Frank demanded when Vextal finally came to see them. The alien diplomat's skin had turned a paler shade of blue. "The council has called an emergency session regarding Earth's application for membership." "Why?" Frank asked. Vextal's large eyes blinked rapidly. "Your historical records have raised concerns. Serious concerns." "What concerns?" Lisa stepped forward. "You have been accused," Vextal said slowly, "of fabricating an impossible historical narrative designed to intimidate other species." Silence fell over the room as the humans tried to process this statement. "That's ridiculous," Frank finally said. "Our history is well documented." "If that is true," Vextal replied, "then your species should not exist. No sentient species could survive what you claim to have endured." Frank stared at Vextal in disbelief. "You think we made up our own history?" "The council believes there may be a misunderstanding," Vextal said carefully. "Or perhaps a deliberate attempt to appear more formidable than you are." Lisa stepped forward. "We need to speak directly to whoever is making these accusations." "That can be arranged," Vextal replied. "The Historical Verification Committee has requested a meeting." For the next 2 days, the human delegation was confined to their quarters. Guards were posted outside their door, tall insect-like aliens with 4 arms and weapons that hummed with energy. "This is ridiculous," Frank said as he paced the common room. "Why would we lie about our own wars and suffering?" "To them, it might make sense," Lisa replied. She sat cross-legged on a couch, reviewing her notes. "Think about it. If you wanted to scare potential enemies, what better way than to claim your species survived multiple planet-wide wars and still became spacefaring?" Ben, the xenobiologist, nodded. "It's like a bluff. Don't mess with us. We've already survived worse than you could do to us." "But it's not a bluff," Frank said, frustration clear in his voice. "It's our actual history." On the third day, they were finally escorted to a large chamber deep in the station. 7 aliens waited for them, seated behind a curved table. At the center sat Zircon, the crystalline being from the Welcome Committee. Its purple facets caught the light as it moved. "Humans," Zircon began, its voice translated into a chiming sound. We appreciate your patience. This situation is unprecedented. Frank stepped forward. We don't understand the accusation against us. We've provided accurate historical records. That is the problem, Zircon replied. Your records describe events that are biologically and sociologically impossible for a sentient species. A holographic display activated in the center of the room. It showed images from human history: soldiers in trenches, nuclear mushroom, clouds, concentration camps, and killing fields. Your species claims, Zircon continued, that you fought not one but two planet-wide wars within 30 years of each other. That's correct, Lisa said. World War I and World War II. You claim the second conflict killed over 70 million of your kind. Yes, about 3% of the world's population at that time. The aliens exchanged glances. One of them, a being covered in what looked like golden fur, leaned forward. You further claim, it said, that after these wars, your two largest powers created enough nuclear weapons to destroy your entire planet many times over, and then pointed these weapons at each other for decades without using them. The Cold War, Frank confirmed. Mutual assured destruction kept either side from attacking. Zircon's crystalline body made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. No sentient species would evolve such a self-destructive pattern. The probability of surviving such behavior is effectively zero. Lisa watched in growing disbelief as the committee presented more examples. Each human atrocity was met with increased skepticism. The Holocaust, the Gulag system, the Cambodian killing fields, the Cultural Revolution. Your supposed history includes multiple genocides, said another committee member, a creature that looked like a giant jellyfish floating in a personal tank. Yet you claim to have continued advancing technologically throughout these periods. We did, Frank insisted. The evidence is irrefutable. We have physical artifacts, recordings, millions of eyewitness accounts, all of which could be fabricated, Zircon countered. Our concern is not just the violence itself, but the pattern it suggests. Your species claims to have repeatedly approached the brink of self-annihilation, only to survive each time. This defies all known models of species development. Lisa took a deep breath. Are you saying that your species never had wars? Never committed atrocities? The committee members shifted uncomfortably. All intelligent life experiences conflict, Zircon acknowledged. My own kind fought territorial disputes for 2,000 years before achieving unity. But the scale and frequency you describe is simply not believable. The golden-furred alien added, the typical pattern across known species is clear. Minor conflicts occur as intelligence develops. As technology advances, species recognize the existential threat of advanced weapons and form planetary governments. This usually happens before splitting the atom. Humans split the atom during a world war, Ben pointed out, and then immediately used it as a weapon. The committee fell silent at this. Finally, Zircon spoke again. If what you claim is true, humans would be the only known species to develop nuclear weapons before achieving world peace. The only species to create global killing technology while still divided into competing nation-states. Do you understand why this is difficult for us to accept? Frank looked at Lisa, who nodded slightly. We understand your skepticism, he said, but our history is real, no matter how improbable it seems to you. Zircon's crystalline body dimmed slightly. The council has authorized me to offer you a choice. Either admit that your historical records are exaggerated for effect, or agree to undergo historical correction therapy. What does that mean? Correction therapy? Lisa asked. A painless procedure, Zircon explained. Our specialists would help you understand the more likely path of your species' development. Many new species experience confusion about their past, especially after first contact. Frank's face hardened. You're asking us to deny our own history, to pretend millions of deaths never happened, to erase the sacrifices made by countless people. We are offering you a path to acceptance in the galactic community, Zircon replied. Your current claims mark you as either deceptive or dangerously unstable. Lisa stepped forward. Would you accept physical evidence? If we could prove our history is accurate. The committee members exchanged glances again. The jellyfish-like alien rippled its transparent body. What kind of evidence? Let a delegation from the council visit Earth, Lisa suggested. See the monuments, the museums, the remains. Verify for yourselves. Murmurs broke out among the committee. Zircon's crystal body chimed as it considered this. Such a verification mission would be unprecedented, it finally said. So is our situation. According to you, Frank pointed out. After a lengthy discussion in their own languages, too complex for the translation devices to handle, the committee reached a decision. We will present your proposal to the full council, Zircon announced. Until then, you will remain under observation. As they were escorted back to their quarters, Lisa whispered to Frank, Do you think they'll agree? Frank looked grim. They have to. The alternative is to label humanity as liars or madmen right at the start of our relationship with galactic society. And if they do come to Earth, Ben asked, what then? What if they still don't believe us when faced with the evidence? Frank had no answer for that. The guard stopped at their door and gestured for them to enter. Then we'll have a real problem, Lisa said quietly as the door closed behind them. Because we can't change who we are or where we came from, no matter how unbelievable it seems to them. 1 week later, the message came. The Galactic Council had agreed to send a verification team to Earth. Frank and Lisa were called to a meeting with Vextal to discuss the details. The Council has approved your proposal, Vextal told them. The blue-skinned diplomat seemed troubled. A delegation will travel to Earth to examine your historical evidence firsthand. That's good news, Frank said, relief evident in his voice. Perhaps, Vextal replied. But understand that if your claims are proven false, Earth will be denied membership in the Council for 100 years. Deception is taken very seriously. And if we're telling the truth? Lisa asked. Vextal's large eyes blinked sideways. Then we face a more complicated situation. Within 2 days, they were heading back to Earth aboard the Endeavor. With them traveled 12 aliens representing different Council species. The verification team included historians, archaeologists, and what they called xenopsychologists, specialists in understanding other species' minds. Zircon led the delegation. During the 3-week journey, the crystalline being spent hours talking with Dr. Alan Barnes, Earth's leading historian, who had joined the original diplomatic mission. I still do not understand, Zircon said during one of their conversations. If your species was truly as violent as you claim, how did you not destroy yourselves? Alan considered the question carefully. We came close many times, but humans have another quality alongside our capacity for violence, resilience, and a drive to do better, to learn from our mistakes. Zircon's crystal body chimed softly. Among the Council species, the capacity for mass violence was bred out or evolved away long before reaching your current technology level. The idea that you achieved space travel while still capable of global war is disturbing. Upon reaching Earth, the verification team was greeted with a carefully planned itinerary. They would visit historical sites across the planet, examining evidence of humanity's violent past. Security was tight. Some people on Earth resented having aliens question their history. Their first stop was Poland. The aliens walked silently through the preserved remains of Auschwitz concentration camp. Their sensors analyzed the age of the buildings, the chemical residue in the gas chambers, the artifacts left behind by victims. Over 1 million people died in this camp alone, Alan explained as they stood in the main yard. Most were killed simply for being Jewish. For a belief system? Asked one of the aliens, a small furry creature with 6 eyes. For their cultural identity and heritage, Alan clarified. The Nazis considered them racially inferior. Zircon had gone completely, still its crystal surface dulled. And this happened across much of your continent? Yes. 6 million Jews died, plus millions of others. Roma people, disabled persons, political prisoners. From Poland, they traveled to Japan. In Hiroshima, They stood beneath the preserved dome that had survived the atomic blast. On August 6, 1945, a single bomb destroyed most of the city, Alan said. Approximately 80,000 people died instantly. More died later from radiation sickness. And your species continued developing more powerful versions of this weapon? Asked Nala V, the fox-like alien. Yes. Eventually, thousands of them. The aliens' instruments took readings of the lingering radiation. Their sensors confirmed the historical accounts. With each site they visited, their disbelief turned increasingly to shock. In Cambodia, they saw the killing fields where nearly 2 million people had died in just 4 years. In Russia, they examined gulags where millions perished. In Rwanda, they visited memorials to a genocide that killed hundreds of thousands in mere weeks. Enough, Zircon finally said after 3 weeks of travel. They were in a war museum in Moscow, surrounded by weapons and photographs from the Eastern Front. We have seen sufficient evidence. The crystalline being had grown visibly distressed over the course of their journey. Its normally bright purple facets had dulled to a flat gray, and it moved with less grace than before. Are you well? Lisa asked with genuine concern. No, Zircon admitted. I am experiencing what your psychologists might call cognitive dissonance. My species has no framework for understanding this level of violence. It creates a physical stress response. That evening, the alien delegation met privately in their quarters at a Moscow hotel. Frank, Lisa, and Alan waited nervously in a separate room. Do you think they believe us now? Frank asked. Alan nodded slowly. They believe, but I'm not sure they understand. There's a difference. Lisa had been quieter than usual since their visit to Auschwitz. I've never felt ashamed of our history before, she said. But seeing it through their eyes. It's not about shame, Alan said firmly. It's about honesty. We can't deny our past, no matter how brutal. That's the whole point. We acknowledge what happened so we can try to be better. After an hour, Vextal emerged from the aliens' meeting room. The blue-skinned diplomat looked exhausted. The verification team has reached a preliminary conclusion, Vextal announced. The evidence is convincing. Your historical records appear to be accurate. So you believe us now? Frank asked. The evidence leaves little room for doubt. But this creates a new problem. Several council members are now deeply concerned about integrating humans into galactic society. Because of what we did centuries ago? Lisa asked. Because of what you might be capable of, Vextal corrected. No other known species developed while maintaining such capacity for self-destruction. You are unique, and uniqueness can be seen as threatening. Later that night, Lisa found Vextal alone on the hotel's roof garden, looking up at the stars. Kya kar? I join you? She asked. Vextal gestured to a nearby bench. Please do. They sat in silence for a while, watching the night sky over Moscow. I have a question, Lisa finally said. Something I've been wondering since we started this journey. Ask. How did your species develop? Did you never have wars? Never commit atrocities against your own kind? Vextal's skin rippled slightly. We had conflicts, yes. All intelligent life does. But they were limited, controlled. When we developed weapons that could destroy cities, we immediately formed a world government to ensure they would never be used. That sounds like a much more sensible path than ours, Lisa admitted. It is the normal path, Vextal said. The logical one. All 17 council species followed similar development patterns. That is why your history is so difficult for us to accept. Lisa looked up at the stars, thinking about the vastness of space and how strange it was to find that humans were the outliers. How did you survive this? Vextal asked suddenly, genuine wonder in its voice. How did your species not destroy itself? Lisa considered the question carefully. It was the same one Zircon had asked, the same one all the aliens seemed to be struggling with. I don't know, she finally said. Luck, maybe. Or perhaps because for all our capacity for destruction, we also have an equal capacity for creation and compassion. For every tyrant in our history, there were thousands of ordinary people who just wanted to live in peace. Vextal turned to look at her directly. Your species frightens me, Lisa, right, but it also fascinates me. That, Lisa said with a small smile, is a very human reaction. The verification mission continued across Earth for another 2 weeks. As the aliens visited more sites and gathered more evidence, a new question began to emerge. It was no longer about whether human history was real, but about a deeper mystery. I do not understand, Nalavi said one evening as the group gathered in their hotel in New York. The fox-like alien was examining a music player that Alan had given her. How could the same species that created gas chambers also create this? He pressed play, and the notes of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony filled the room. Or this, added another alien holding up a book of Shakespeare. Your species wrote about the depths of violence, but also about love, hope, and beauty. Alan nodded. That's the human paradox. Our capacity for great evil and great good exist side by side. Frank had been watching the aliens' reactions with growing concern. Will this help our case with the Council, or hurt it? Both, perhaps, Vextal replied. The verification team now accepts your history as accurate, but this has raised new questions about human nature that disturb many Council members. The next day, Alan decided to change their approach. Instead of focusing only on humanity's violent past, he would show the aliens humanity's response to that violence. Their first stop was the United Nations headquarters. After World War II, Alan explained as they stood in the General Assembly Hall, nations came together to try to prevent future conflicts. The UN isn't perfect, but it represents our ongoing effort to solve problems through diplomacy rather than war. Zircon, who had been quiet for days, finally spoke. This is similar to how other species developed planetary governance. But you did it after developing nuclear weapons, not before. Yes, Alan admitted. We often learn the hard way. They visited hospitals where doctors treated patients regardless of nationality or belief. They toured disaster relief organizations that rushed aid to crisis zones. They observed international scientific projects where former enemies worked side by side. At a refugee center, they watched as volunteers helped people who had fled from wars and persecution. These helpers, Zircon observed, they choose to ease suffering rather than cause it. Most humans would make the same choice, Lisa said. The violence in our history was often caused by relatively small groups who gained power over others. The delegation visited art museums, concert halls, and libraries. They saw how human creativity had flourished even in the darkest times. During your World War II, said a plant-like alien named Threll, humans were killing each other by the millions. Yet in the same period, you made scientific breakthroughs, created art, and wrote music. Sometimes in direct response to the suffering, Alan explained, art can be a way to process trauma, to find meaning in pain. This concept seemed to fascinate the aliens. On a rainy afternoon in London, they sat in the British Library as Alan showed them books written by survivors of humanity's worst atrocities. These writers, Alan said, didn't deny the horror they experienced. They transformed it into something that could help others understand and prevent similar events. Meanwhile, a disturbing development was taking place behind the scenes. Several Council species had begun secret military assessments of human capabilities. Frank learned of this when he received an encrypted message from the Earth Alliance headquarters. They're scanning our defense systems, he told Lisa and Alan in a private meeting, cataloging our weapons, analyzing our military strategies. Are they planning to attack us? Lisa asked, alarmed. Frank shook his head. I don't think so, but they're definitely scared. Think about it from their perspective. They just confirmed that a species with our violent history is now venturing into space. We need to change how they see us, Alan said. They're focusing too much on our capacity for destruction and not enough on our capacity for growth. For their final week on Earth, Alan reworked the itinerary. He took the aliens to visit newer human achievements, environmental restoration projects, peaceful nuclear power plants, space research centers. At NASA's main facility, The aliens watched videos of the International Space Station, where astronauts from formerly hostile nations lived and worked together in orbit. This is what humans can accomplish when we cooperate, Alan told them. Yes, we have a brutal history, but we learn from it. We evolve. Zircon had been measuring human brain activity throughout their journey. The crystalline being presented, its findings to the group. Human brains show unusual patterns, it explained. Your species seems adapted to high-stress environments that other sentient life would find unbearable. You can function amid conflict that would cause psychological collapse in council species. Is that good or bad? Frank asked. It simply is, Zircon replied. But it does explain how you survived your own history. On their last night on Earth, the verification team gathered for a final discussion. The mood was solemn. We have completed our assessment, Vextel announced. We will return to the council with our findings. And what will you tell them? Lisa asked. The truth, Vextel said. That human history is as you described it. That your species evolved through conflict that would have destroyed any council race. That you are, as far as we know, unique in the galaxy. Will that help our case for membership? Frank asked. Vextel's skin rippled with an emotion Lisa couldn't identify. Some council members will see your resilience as valuable. Others will view it as a threat. A threat? Alan asked. We've shown you our progress toward peace, our efforts to overcome our violent tendencies. Yes, Zircon said. But you have also shown us that those tendencies still exist within you. You have not eliminated your capacity for mass violence. You have merely chosen not to act on it. To many species, the very fact that you could choose otherwise is terrifying. After the aliens left, Frank, Lisa, and Alan met in the Earth Alliance headquarters. The room was secure, free from any monitoring devices. What do you think will happen? Lisa asked. Frank looked grim. Best case? They accept us with special conditions. Worst case? They decide we're too dangerous to join galactic society. Or too dangerous to be left alone, Alan added quietly. Lisa stared out the window at the nighttime skyline of Washington, D.C. She thought about everything the aliens had seen, the worst and best of humanity laid bare. Whatever they decide, she said, we showed them the truth. We didn't hide from our past or pretend to be something we're not. Let's hope that counts for something, Frank replied. The Council's decision will come soon, and then we'll know where humanity stands in the galaxy. 3 weeks passed with no word from the Galactic Council. Earth governments grew nervous. Military forces around the world were placed on standby. Space defense systems were activated. The world held its breath, waiting for the Council's decision. Finally, a message arrived. The Council requested Frank, Lisa, and Alan to return to Harmony Station for the official ruling. A small diplomatic vessel was sent to bring them. During the journey back, they tried to prepare for all possibilities. What if they reject us entirely? Lisa asked. Then we keep developing on our own, Frank said firmly. Humanity survived without the Council for thousands of years. We can continue to do so. But now we know we're not alone, Alan pointed out. That changes everything. Upon their arrival at Harmony Station, they could feel the tension in the air. Alien representatives watched them closely as they made their way to the council chamber. The central hall was full. All 17 council species had sent their highest-ranking diplomats. At the center sat Vextal, who had been appointed to deliver the final decision. Humans, Vextal began. The council has deliberated extensively on your case. This situation is without precedent. Frank stepped forward. We understand the difficult position our history has placed you in, but we ask to be judged by what we are becoming, not just by what we once were. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Vextel raised a hand for silence. The verification team's report was thorough. Vextel continued. They confirmed that human history is indeed as you described it. This has profound implications. A council member stood up, a tall, insect-like being. They should not exist, it declared. No species could evolve through such brutality. And yet, Vextal responded, they did. Another council member rose, the jellyfish-like creature that had been part of the verification team. I have seen Earth with my own senses. I have walked through their museums of war. I have measured the radiation that still lingers from their nuclear detonations. Their history is real, and it is terrifying. The chamber erupted in debate. Some aliens argued that humans were too dangerous to be allowed into galactic society. Others pointed out that humans had survived challenges that would have destroyed any other known species. If they could endure their own violence, one argued, they might help us face threats we cannot even imagine. After hours of debate, Vextal called for order. The council has reached a decision. It was not unanimous, but it is final. The room fell silent. Frank gripped the edge of his podium. Lisa held her breath. Humanity will be classified as an evolutionary anomaly, Vextal announced. This is a new category created specifically for your species. You will be granted limited membership in the council, with full integration to follow over a period of 50 Earth years. Frank exhaled slowly. Thank you for this opportunity. There are conditions, Vextal continued. Humans must accept monitoring of their military technologies. Human ships will initially be restricted to certain space lanes, and a permanent cultural exchange program will be established to help both sides better understand each other. These terms are acceptable, Frank said, knowing that Earth's governments had already agreed to reasonable restrictions. Then it is settled, Vextal declared. Welcome to the galactic community. The response was mixed. Some aliens approached to offer congratulations. Others left the chamber without acknowledging the humans. Later, as they prepared for the journey home, Zircon came to speak with them privately. The crystalline being had recovered some of its purple luster, but still looked dimmer than when they first met. I wanted you to understand something, Zircon said. Some council members fear you. Others are fascinated by you, but all recognize that humans bring something new to our collective knowledge. What's that? Alan asked. Resilience beyond reason, Zircon replied. You faced extinction multiple times and survived. No other species has your experience with near destruction. That makes you valuable, despite the danger you might represent. 6 months later, Earth had changed dramatically. Alien technology was being carefully shared. Trade agreements were being negotiated. Cultural exchanges had begun, with alien students studying on Earth and human students traveling to other worlds. A new alien embassy opened in Washington, D.C. Lisa, now serving as the chief liaison, walked through its exhibit halls with a group of visiting council representatives. The embassy featured displays about human history, carefully explaining to alien visitors the strange path of human development. One exhibit showed the timeline of human warfare, from primitive clubs to nuclear weapons. Another displayed great human achievements in art, literature, and science, many created during periods of conflict. A young alien, a smaller version of Vextal's species, approached Lisa as she finished the tour. I have a question, it said, its translator converting clicks and whistles into English. Go ahead, Lisa encouraged. If your history is so terrible, why do you preserve it? The young alien asked. Why not forget the painful parts? Lisa looked at a large image on the wall, a photo of Earth taken from space during the first moon landing. A fragile blue marble suspended in darkness. Because forgetting who we were would dishonor what we overcame, she answered. And because the galaxy needs to understand, if humanity survived its own worst impulses, perhaps there's hope for us all. The young alien considered this, blinking its 3 eyes slowly. Your species scares me, it admitted, but it also gives me hope. Lisa smiled. That's the most human reaction you could have. Over the next few years, humanity's unique perspective began to prove valuable to the Council. When a crisis arose, between 2 alien civilizations, human diplomats drew on Earth's bloody history to help find peaceful solutions. When environmental disaster threatened a Council world, humans shared hard-won knowledge about surviving catastrophe. Frank, now serving as Earth's official ambassador to the Council, often reflected on their journey. From being accused of lying about their history to becoming valued members of galactic society, it had been a strange path. "Our greatest weakness became our greatest strength," he told Lisa during a reception celebrating the second anniversary of Earth's admission to the Council. "Our history is still brutal," Lisa replied. "That hasn't changed." "No," Frank agreed, "but now it has meaning beyond just our own planet. Our mistakes might help prevent others from repeating them." "An evolutionary anomaly," Lisa said, quoting their official classification. "It still sounds like an insult." Frank smiled. "I prefer to think of it as a badge of honor. We survived what no other species could. That's something to be proud of." Around them, humans and aliens mingled, sharing stories and ideas. The future remained uncertain, but for the first time humanity faced it as part of something larger than itself. A galactic community that had once claimed human history was too brutal to believe.